A metallic sphere has been found in Colombia, unlike anything scientists have seen before.
The Buga Sphere just reacted to ancient Sanskrit chants, leaving scientists completely speechless. What happened inside that lab has shaken every assumption about sound, matter, and the limits of science. For now, all we know is that a strange metallic object found in Colombia in March of this year in Buga, Colombia, a sphere UFO was capped. Isn't behaving like anything we've ever seen. Instruments went haywire, and the readings defied logic. But the real mystery isn't what it did, it's what it might mean. Could this discovery change how we understand the connection between vibration and reality itself? Stay tuned, because this story is only getting started. A frequency that should not exist. Before the world understood what it was witnessing, a single moment rewrote the investigation. Inside a quiet lab, a perfectly smooth metallic sphere reacted to sound, not to instruments, radiation, or mechanical force, but to ancient Sanskrit chants. There was no reason it should have happened, no precedent in physics, no theory to fall back on. Yet sensors surged, energy signatures shifted, and something inside the object moved in unmistakable harmony with a language thousands of years old. Researchers froze, lost for words. Equipment recorded what logic refused to accept. For a brief span of seconds, sound and matter behaved as if they shared a secret, one modern science has yet to name. Whatever this artifact was, it reacted to a language older than recorded history, hinting at origins beyond anything familiar. Long before scientists stood speechless around it, the sphere lay untouched in an open field, waiting to be found. The object that shouldn't exist. A farmer on the outskirts of Buga, Colombia, stumbled upon a scorched patch of land one early morning. The grass was gone, the soil dry and brittle, as though something had drained the life out of it. In the center lay a metallic sphere, about the size of a football, perfectly smooth and glistening even under the pale dawn light. At first, it looked like scrap from a crashed drone, but within days, the sphere showed no signs of damage. No bolts, no seams, not even a visible point of entry or origin. When local authorities took it to a nearby university for examination, researchers immediately noticed strange readings. The object emitted a consistent low-frequency vibration, barely audible but powerful enough to interfere with nearby electronic equipment. A magnetic sensor recorded fluctuations that didn't align with any known material pattern. The sphere's surface temperature stayed constant, cooler than the surrounding air, as if it was defying thermodynamics. What made it even more unsettling was its silence. No ticking, no mechanical hum, nothing to suggest movement. Yet instruments detected internal motion. Soon, the National Autonomous University of Mexico, or UNAM, got involved. Dr. Carlos Munoz, one of the first physicists to analyze it, described it as an engineering language that doesn't belong to our era. High-resolution imaging revealed what appeared to be microscopic wiring, so fine that even advanced electron microscopes struggled to trace it. Beneath the outer layer were 3 nested shells of differing metallic compositions, each separated by an unknown insulating material. At the very core was something that looked like a chip or a nucleus, almost organic in pattern, yet crystalline in texture. It wasn't just its construction that baffled scientists, it was its behavior.
The sphere seemed to respond to movement, slightly adjusting its position when approached. Instruments showed an 81% reduction in inertia under controlled conditions, as though it could manipulate its own mass. Engineers described it as sliding through air rather than rolling. Others noticed a cooling effect emanating from its surface, around 100 watts of thermal loss per hour, consistent and measurable, but there was no visible power source. As word spread, online forums exploded with theories: alien probe, military prototype, ancient artifact, quantum battery. But even skeptics couldn't deny what was being recorded. Independent labs confirmed similar findings: mass fluctuations, energy emissions, and a consistent low-level magnetic hum. One engineer remarked that it behaved as if it was breathing, expanding and contracting microscopically every few seconds. Then came the environmental anomaly. The field where it was discovered showed no regrowth of grass or microbial life even months later. Soil samples revealed complete moisture depletion, but no radiation. Scientists speculated that an ionized field could have sterilized the area, though no known mechanism matched that explanation. The term invisible energy extraction started appearing in research notes and social media posts alike. By the time the media caught on, the Buga Sphere had become a global obsession. News anchors called it the Colombian enigma. Physicists debated whether it could be an experiment in negative mass physics, a concept only ever tested in theory. Reports even claimed the sphere's weight increased over time, suggesting internal changes or energy accumulation. Still, no one could determine what activated it or what its purpose might be. To some, it was a message. To others, a warning. But one thing was clear: the sphere was not inert. It was alive in a mechanical sense, aware of its surroundings and possibly responding to something we didn't yet understand. As one researcher put it, staring at the live monitor displaying the object's steady electromagnetic pulse, "We're not studying it, it's studying us." What no one knew then was that the strangest reaction of all was still waiting to be discovered, one that would blur the line between science, sound, and something far older than both. When science met the unknown. Once word of the Buga Sphere reached major research institutions, the scientific community moved quickly. What began as a regional curiosity was soon under controlled analysis at the National Autonomous University of Mexico. The early tests produced results that even seasoned physicists described as baffling. Under precise conditions, the sphere's inertia appeared to fluctuate. During one motion study, technicians watched it roll uphill on a gently inclined plane without external force. When they tried to replicate the test, the outcome varied, as though the sphere decided when to obey gravity and when to ignore it. Thermal imaging added another layer of confusion. The object consistently maintained a surface temperature a few degrees cooler than the surrounding environment, and this cooling effect persisted even when sealed in an insulated chamber. The heat signature wasn't random. It formed a perfect circular gradient, coldest at the core, warmest at the edges. Some engineers proposed it was functioning as a heat sink, possibly converting absorbed energy into another form. But without any moving parts or power supply, that theory dissolved as quickly as it appeared. Then came the materials tests. X-ray diffraction showed no recognizable alloy structure. The metals didn't match anything on the periodic table exactly. Instead, their atomic lattice displayed irregularities consistent with high-pressure formation, something that might occur inside a star or through advanced manufacturing beyond current human capability. A technician reported that cutting into it was impossible. Every attempt, from diamond-tip drills to laser ablation, failed to breach the surface. It was as if the metal was actively resisting interference. When results began to leak, speculation turned wild. Some claimed it was a satellite component or space debris. Others floated the idea of secret defense technology. A handful of fringe scientists suggested something more extraordinary, that the sphere wasn't built, it was grown. The layered internal structure resembled organic systems more than mechanical ones, with patterns similar to mycelial branching or neural connectivity. Under electron microscopy, these inner threads emitted faint photonic bursts, not unlike the firing of biological neurons. The idea that it could be both technological and biological blurred lines that researchers were not prepared to cross. MSAN's researchers, as well as many others online, speculate that the Buga Sphere is not a one-time discovery. Dr. Carlos Munoz held a press briefing to calm the frenzy. He acknowledged the anomalies, but stopped short of making conclusions. Still, his words didn't help the skeptics sleep easy. "We're looking at a system that interacts with its environment in a way we don't yet understand," he said. "It may not be reacting to us at all. It may be reacting to the universe itself." Behind closed doors, a smaller group of researchers took the experiments further. They placed the sphere in a sound-isolated chamber and introduced vibrational frequencies, testing its response to specific decibel levels. At certain tones, subtle electromagnetic fluctuations occurred around the object, measurable but faint. That discovery prompted a new question. Was it sensitive to sound or something deeper, like frequency resonance? Days turned into weeks. Teams ran endless data simulations trying to model its energy behavior. Then something unexpected happened. During a calibration sequence, an intern accidentally spoke while standing near the active sensors. The reading shifted. The moment he stopped, the signal faded. At first, the team dismissed it as interference, but curiosity got the better of them. They began testing again, this time using sustained vocal tones, musical pitches, and even recordings of ancient instruments. Each time, the sphere responded differently, its internal energy fluctuating as if synchronizing with the frequency. By now, what had started as a material study had become something else entirely. The data suggested a pattern, one that hinted at the sphere's ability to translate vibration into motion or energy. It wasn't just reacting randomly, it was listening. Scientists didn't yet know it, but they had stumbled upon the first clue that would link this mysterious artifact to one of humanity's oldest traditions. Sound as creation, vibration as language, and resonance as communication. And soon, a centuries-old chant would push that theory beyond imagination. The mantra experiment. It started with a simple observation buried deep in the data logs. The sphere's electromagnetic field shifted in measurable patterns whenever human voices were present. The first time it happened, no one noticed. A research assistant had been speaking near the sensor equipment while recalibrating microphones, and the instruments recorded a faint rhythmic pulse inside the sphere. When the data was reviewed later, it showed something uncanny. The pulse followed the tone and pacing of the assistant's voice almost perfectly, like an echo that wasn't sound, but energy. That discovery changed everything. The team began exploring whether the sphere was responding to language or to vibration itself. But the readings remained subtle. Then a graduate student, curious about harmonic frequency theories, proposed something unusual. What if they tried Sanskrit? The ancient language known for its precise phonetic resonance had long fascinated acousticians and linguists alike. Some believed its syllables carried natural vibrational symmetry capable of affecting matter. Most of the team dismissed the idea as poetic mythology, but since they'd tried everything else, they agreed to test it. The first session was conducted under strict isolation. The lab was silent except for a recording of the Gayatri mantra played through a low-frequency transducer. For the first few minutes, nothing happened. Then, as the chant deepened into its second verse, the monitors flickered. Electromagnetic readings spiked sharply, and a faint shimmer appeared across the sphere's surface, barely visible, but enough to make everyone freeze. When the audio stopped, the shimmer faded and the energy readings dropped back to baseline. At first, the scientists assumed it was a coincidence, but repetition proved otherwise. Every time a Sanskrit mantra was played, the sphere responded with the same measurable fluctuations, sometimes with increased brightness, other times with a subtle vibration that could be felt through the floor. One researcher described it as standing next to a massive engine running miles below the surface. It wasn't loud, but the sensation carried through bone. When they tried to replicate the response using Western music, chanting, or white noise, nothing happened. The sphere remained dormant, lifeless, almost indifferent. But as soon as the Sanskrit frequencies returned, so did the pulse. The consistency of the effect was undeniable. Even skeptics began to accept that the object wasn't just reflecting sound, it was reacting to it, perhaps even interpreting it. To eliminate human interference, they replaced live recordings with pure digital frequencies matched to the chant's harmonic structure. The result was the same. The sphere didn't care whether the sound came from a person or a speaker. It was responding to resonance itself. Dr. Munoz summarized it in his field notes. It seems to recognize the geometry of vibration, not the meaning of words. By the end of the week, the experiment had outgrown the lab. International researchers requested live streams and clips began leaking online. In one viral video, a technician hummed a single Sanskrit syllable near the sphere, and it emitted a faint blue luminescence. Commenters claimed it proved ancient languages were designed with universal physics in mind. Others accused the team of faking the footage. The university tried to maintain secrecy, but curiosity had already escaped into the world. As the experiments continued, something more curious happened. The longer the sphere was exposed to chanting, the cooler its temperature became, almost as if the sound was fueling its energy absorption. Instruments picked up a mild negative pressure field around it, barely detectable but consistent. It was as though the object drew strength from sound, converting human voice into some unknown form of motion or mass alteration. The team had crossed the threshold from physics into philosophy. What did it mean for an artifact to respond not to commands, but to the cadence of language spoken thousands of years ago? Was this coincidence, resonance, or a hidden technology designed to communicate through sound itself? One thing was clear. Whatever created the Buga Sphere, it understood something that modern science was only beginning to glimpse: the power of vibration to bridge the gap between matter and meaning. And soon the world would see the moment that connection became undeniable. The day the sphere awoke. On the morning of the live demonstration, the air in the lab felt unusually heavy. Cameras were in place, technicians stood by the instruments, and the Buga Sphere rested at the center of a reinforced glass enclosure. No one expected anything dramatic. The goal was simple: to replicate the earlier Sanskrit experiments under fully controlled conditions with multiple witnesses present. Yet, within minutes, the event would spiral into something no one could have anticipated. As the recording of the Gayatri mantra began to play, a deep hum filled the room. The sound wasn't loud, but it was everywhere, vibrating through the floor, through the steel supports, even through the air itself. At first, the readings looked normal, small oscillations consistent with the sphere's known resonance behavior. But then one of the screens flashed red. The electromagnetic field around the sphere was spiking at a rate no one had seen before. The chant continued. The temperature sensors dipped sharply, dropping several degrees in seconds. Inside the chamber, the surface of the sphere began to glow, not brightly, but with a soft bluish pulse that seemed to move with the rhythm of the mantra. Technicians stared, frozen. The pulses matched the exact frequency of the chant's harmonic intervals. It wasn't coincidence. The object wasn't just responding, it was synchronizing. Then came the interference. The lights in the room flickered, monitors glitched, and one by one every device with a metallic surface began to vibrate faintly.
Muttering, "This is insane." The Buga Sphere just reacted to ancient Sanskrit chants, and the instruments confirmed it in real time. The readings weren't noise or distortion. They were structured energy patterns repeating, almost communicative. Dr. Munoz, who had insisted on keeping the test brief, ordered the playback to stop. The instant the sound faded, the glow subsided. Within seconds, the temperature stabilized, and the field collapsed to normal. The entire episode lasted less than a minute, yet when the data was reviewed, the implications were staggering. The sphere had emitted an energy signature resembling a low-frequency gravitational wave, something that shouldn't have been possible for any object that size, or any object at all, without astronomical mass. The team spent hours replaying the footage frame by frame. Each time the mantra reached its high tonal peaks, the energy readings intensified. The synchronization was exact, down to milliseconds. It was as if the sphere recognized the pattern, almost like language comprehension, but at a vibrational level. Some researchers argued that Sanskrit's unique phonetic structure might have triggered the response because of its precise frequency geometry. Others dismissed that theory as mystical thinking. That is just very questionable, in my opinion, when it comes to the Buga Sphere. Things that put its authenticity in question. Yet no one could explain why English, Chinese, or any other sound had failed to elicit the same effect. Word of the event spread quickly. Within 24 hours, every major social platform was flooded with clips of the glowing sphere, the synchronized hum, and the stunned silence that followed the words. This is insane. People began dissecting every frame, comparing waveform charts, analyzing the audio spectrum of the chant, even overlaying the sound frequencies onto ancient temple carvings, as if searching for a hidden code. In just a few days, the Buga Sphere wasn't a lab artifact anymore. It had become a global obsession. At the university, things shifted from excitement to caution.
The lab was locked down, and all future experiments were suspended pending safety review. The Ministry of Science issued a formal inquiry after reports surfaced that the sphere's weight had increased again, this time from 22 to nearly 25 pounds. That alone shouldn't have been possible, not without mass being added. Yet the numbers were consistent across every instrument. A few theorists suggested it might be absorbing ambient energy, possibly even sound waves themselves, converting resonance into mass. Others, more skeptical, argued the equipment was simply malfunctioning under media pressure. But the anomalies didn't stop there. The lab's environmental sensors detected faint magnetic disturbances within a 5-meter radius of the containment chamber. Power fluctuations became common, though localized only to the building. Plants near the test site began to wilt, showing the same dehydration effect that had been observed in the original field where the object was found. When a geologist tested the soil beneath the lab, it registered unusually high levels of ionization, something typically caused by prolonged electromagnetic exposure. Yet once again, there was no radiation. It was as if the sphere was rewriting its own surroundings on a molecular level. News outlets had a field day. Headlines called it the artifact that listens, the singing machine, and Colombia's quantum enigma. Debates filled television panels. Physicists argued over negative mass theory. Linguists speculated about vibrational syntax. And spiritual leaders claimed it proved that Sanskrit was the original frequency of creation. A few skeptics accused the research team of staging the entire event, claiming the glow could have been caused by hidden LED lights or magnetic resonance tricks. But when the university released a portion of the raw EMF data, even the doubters went quiet. The numbers were too clean, too structured, too real. For Dr. Munoz, the turning point came when he reviewed a spectrogram of the energy pulses emitted during the experiment. The pattern mirrored the geometry of the Sri Yantra, an ancient Hindu symbol representing the union of physical and spiritual planes. No one in the lab had programmed it. It was simply there. That single discovery left the team silent for nearly an hour. Was it coincidence, or was the sphere somehow recalling the same cosmic geometry encoded in the mantra itself? Security around the artifact tightened. Access required biometric clearance. Outside the facility, protests formed, some demanding transparency, others calling it divine evidence suppressed by academia. Online theories multiplied daily. One claimed the sphere was a seed from another civilization designed to awaken through sound. Another suggested it was a probe measuring the consciousness of those who encountered it. Inside the lab, the atmosphere grew heavier. Several technicians reported hearing faint tones when standing near the chamber, even when no audio played. The frequency was low, barely perceptible, but it carried a rhythm, slow, steady, almost like a heartbeat. When one of them whispered near the glass, the readings jumped again. Whatever the Buga Sphere was doing, it hadn't stopped. The institution tried to downplay everything, insisting that further investigation is ongoing. But among the researchers, a quiet realization had taken hold.
The experiment had crossed into something larger than science. It wasn't just about physics anymore. It was about communication. The sphere had heard humanity's oldest language and replied in kind. No one knew what that meant yet, or whether it was trying to say something back. But one thing was clear. The moment the Buga Sphere reacted to ancient Sanskrit chants, the line between discovery and belief blurred forever. A mystery that redefines reality. Weeks after the demonstration, the lab remained sealed and no official updates had been released. The Buga Sphere sat in isolation, monitored by a small group of scientists under tight security. Most of the original team had been reassigned. The whispers suggested the project had quietly moved under government supervision. The data gathered so far was enough to fill entire servers, but no one could claim to understand what it meant. Every test led to another contradiction, every theory to another question. The most startling revelation came when researchers discovered that the sphere emitted faint pulses even in total silence. It no longer needed chanting to respond. The patterns were weak but consistent, mathematically structured in cycles matching the same harmonic intervals found in the Gayatri mantra. Somehow it had memorized the vibration. The object wasn't reacting anymore. It was continuing the chant on its own. Physicists struggled to explain the phenomenon. Some called it residual resonance. Others suggested self-sustaining quantum oscillation. But those who'd spent time near the sphere described something else, an intangible sense that it was aware. One technician claimed he heard his name whispered through the static of a monitor. Another said the sphere's pulse quickened when people entered the room, as if it could sense attention. Outside the scientific community, interpretations multiplied. Some saw it as proof that ancient languages were coded with the same mathematics governing the universe. Others viewed it as a reminder that sound, intention, and consciousness might be far more interconnected than science admits. A few went further, calling the sphere a bridge between human creation and something cosmic, a mirror that sings back to us in the language we once forgot. Unum eventually issued a short statement. The Buga Sphere remains under study. Preliminary data indicates an unprecedented form of vibrational interaction between matter and sound. Beyond that, silence. Yet the story refused to fade. Scientists were lost for words, but the public wasn't. To many, it became a symbol of rediscovery, a reminder that not every mystery is meant to be solved, only understood in fragments. Somewhere in that sealed room in Colombia, the Buga Sphere still hums quietly, pulsing in rhythm with a chant older than history. And if you listen closely, it almost feels like the universe itself is trying to remember the words.